Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to attempt to get some stuff done on the A4. I don't know what, and I'm not going to say because I may well fail. But stick with us. Right, well first up is this steering rack. I'm fed up with not being able to steer the car properly because I haven't had a steering rack on it and I have to keep kicking the alloys. So let's get this off because although, let's just put it in the camera, I had to cut the track rods off because, well, they're seized on solid. And for some reason I still can't get them off even now. I've done whatever I can here, so I'm going to take the boot off, see if I can actually take the track rod off. I'll stick it in the vise and see if we can't get some heat on it. Let's go. Well, that's the two track rods removed, which were a pain in the butt, but a little bit of heat and that makes it so much easier. So the next thing to do will be to give the rack a bit of a clean up. I think I'll hit it with some silver paint just to match with everything else. I reckon I'm going to, now that they're off, which is the other reason I stripped it all down rather than left the boots on, I think I'm going to replace actual track rods as well because they've been in there for 167,000 miles. They're pretty cheap to replace. The rack doesn't leak, so the rack is good, so it just makes sense. You know, they're wearable parts, so let's just replace them with the new track rods, paint it up with a bit of silver, put the new boots on, and then we can call that done. So I'll just I'll show you it when it's finished rather than record it, and yeah, let's get on to the next thing. Right, so next up, we're going to get this AB head off the block, ready for when we put it into on the 06A. I have my diagram here, which I've downloaded off my app, so I know which way the bolts have got to come off. Starting with this one down here as number 1. So let's get to it. Number 10. Right, that's them out of the way with. Let's just move some stuff. See if this thing will... Excellent. Right, thankfully I did actually already have the oil out of it. She's making a mess on the floor, but we're getting there. For those wondering, when I took the head off, the kit I used was, I'm sure I bought it from a local place, but this is a kit I use. You can see I've had to destroy one of these for a Mark V Golf that my missus had. So I end up cutting it in half and then using that bit and then putting a span around it because there's just no room to use it all. But yeah, that was a kit that I've just used for the head studs. So yeah, really good kit. Now though, it's time to get this off. Where is that? Is that a 16? So yeah, let's get this sump off. I'd just like to say this thing is amazing. Right, that's the last of them. Let's see if I can just jimmy this off. With my special screwdriver. There we go. Ingion. And doesn't look all that bad, does it really, in there? Hello everyone, it is a new day, and what have I been up to? Well, as you've seen in the video, we have now stripped the engines down, and we've got that all set up, ready to take to the next step. But since then, I've been part hunting, and from then, what have we got? First up, we went to see my mate Luke Miller, who donated this 06A block for a grand total of £0 and 0 pence. I've had some problems in the past with engine, and Luke knows that, And he said, look, I don't know what the spec, how many miles, the condition, or anything about the engine. He said, but it's here for you to have. And I said, well, it's getting blown apart. We're going to go through it. So as long as there's not a hole in it or anything like that, it's going to work. So Luke, cheers for this 06A block. I appreciate you donating it to the cause. So we now have the better bottom end with the large port head, so that once I get the internals done and send it for a rebuild, we're getting somewhere with the engine. Speaking of which, I spent some time on the phone yesterday with Robert at Turbo's Entrance up in Manchester. First of all, let me just say this straight away. Thank you, Robert, for everything you've done for me. That really does help. He had a sponsorship deal on their website, which I thought, I've never done it in the times I've built cars, never asked for help. But this bill was escalating, and I thought, well, it's on the website, why not try? And he freely admitted back to me that he wasn't in a position to be able to offer any sponsorship deals, but he said, I'm going to do whatever I can to help you out, and he's done that. So we went back and forth talking about turbos, because even though I've been messing around with cars ever since I've been driving, which was a fair few years ago, 22 of them, I've never actually purchased an aftermarket turbo. I've never had cars where I've bothered. I've never had cars where I've needed to, and the main builds that I've had were, well, I had a KO3 turbo Mark II Golf, but went quick enough. I didn't really feel the need for it. It was more about looks. Bore was naturally aspirated, and that was always going to be. So this is the first turbo build that I've actually gone full hammer and tong at, and I didn't really know much about the turbos, but we ended up coming after conversation between each other after what I wanted, with all factors in play, bearing in mind I have got a limited space. We've ordered up a spar manifold. We're going to have run an adapter to be able to run the GT550 turbo Garrett, which I've ordered as well. We're going to have an adapter to be able to work them two together, because the spar manifold suits my setup with the way the tubbed arches are better than a tubular manifold would. But the GT550, bearing in mind I'm a bit lost with here, basically they won't join together, so I need an adapter to be able to run that manifold with that turbo, which is about an inch, which is perfect, because it then lifts the turbo up a little bit more than it would have done, which means I'm clearing those tub arches even more. It's the turbos nowadays, this is why I really want to go for the 550 rather than the GTX previous gen. The actual housings are quite small. It's all internal with the spine shaft and everything else they've done to the internals. You can compressor wheel, etc., etc., that gets the power that these turbos are now producing, even though they're relatively small. So, although a massive turbo like that would look really good in the engine bay, I'm building a car for performance. So I don't care if anybody comes up and says, oh yeah, it could have looked bigger, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make a difference, because it's all about how it puts it down. It's still going to look good, but yeah, this is a performance car, and it's all going to be about how it drives. So thank you, Rob, for that. Once they're in, I'll show you what I've ordered. In between then and the earlier part of the video, I've been buying parts. So like I said, Luke Miller, thank you very much for the block. We bought the turbo and stuff from Turbo's Entrance. Let's put this out of the way for the moment. I met a guy a couple of years ago. I bought some wheels for Dory, as my partner Amanda affectionately names it. I bought some Fat Fives for it. And the plan was to fit these Fat Fives to it, and then we decided not to. She had another car, she was doing this, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I sold these wheels to Mikey, and I met him through selling the wheels, and that was it. He was fitting them to an A4 B5 saloon, 1.8 turbo, and he was a member on the Facebook page that I'm part of as well. And yeah, so we'd spoke when I'd ask questions, and etc., etc. And it turns out this car, after a while, he was now breaking. And I spoke to him about some parts, and yeah, went up there a couple of weeks ago and see Mikey, and bought a load of parts that some I knew, some I didn't. But let's start off with the first one. Local to me is a company called TTV Racing. They're only 10 minutes down the road from me. And he had this RS4 billet flywheel done, and it made sense. Why not? You know, so that's going to be a brilliant addition. The clutch that comes with it is that's just going to go in the bin. I'm not going to bother using that. There's no point doing all this and then putting a used clutch in. Whilst there, I bought parts that I don't need. Carbon fibre, blue weaved carbon fibre, so that at least match the car. You know, this is just a show car side of me coming into play and causing me problems because they're not cheap and I don't need them. But in the overall, it's something that I wanted to do anyway. So we bought them off him as well. The Rocking Horse SHIT scuttle panel cover, all intact. Just needs a little bit of a freshen up, but it's not cracked. The clips are all there, battery cover's there, gold dust. So that'll finish that up in there because Grandad, for some reason, he had one. I don't know what it was off. It didn't fit that one. So that's sorted. The main reason we were talking in the first place with Mikey was because I knew he had a facelift car and I needed a facelift loom. Now the facelift loom for the 1.8 turbo was different from my facelift loom, which was for the diesel, etc., etc. So, like I said in the previous video, I was trying to work out what was best to do with the interior of the loom. That's what was holding up that side of the build. I've now got that. He didn't know which part to give me, so he gave me the whole interior loom. So I've now got spare loom, which is always handy if I want to extend, splice some wires, etc., etc. So bag of loom is always a bonus. But now I have the interior loom, which means I can get the carbon on the dash in the car, the loom in the car, and start finishing up that area, which will be a big tick to finish and getting somewhere with this build. While I was there, it was a bonus as well because I didn't really know what to do with the engine loom. Now, my engine, like I've said, the AEB was from pre-facelift cars, so the plugs were all different. The engine loom, he'd sold the engine, but the loom was still there. And I asked him if it was available, and he said, yeah, it's already been modified for TFSI core packs, so that's a big bonus. So there's a modification in the loom already, which is going to only benefit the car. But more importantly, it means I can plug it into the engine, plug the loom into the car will accept this loom and it will all talk to each other like it needs to. I've now got a complete loom set, which means that I've converted my diesel car to petrol without having to cut, modify, splice, get Ronnie down here with his amazing loom mind. I ain't got to do any of that, not all of it, but this is pretty much a plug and play situation, so that's beneficial to me. So cheers Mikey for sorting all that out for us. Next up, from What Motorsport, I've ordered a full set of 034 Motorsport engine mounts, track density ones. There's 4, there's only 3 available, so there's got to be another option for the UK passenger side of the gearbox. Now, I've done a little bit of a put a question up on the B5 Facebook page, asking what people recommended. And a lad in America, Mike Hood, got in contact and said that he had these, which were from the 34 market and in a box of them. He said, I've got these. This might be of benefit to you. And yeah, cut a long story short, I've now got an uprated passenger side gearbox mount. So cheers, Mike, for sorting it out. From the US, 2 days. Unbelievable delivery time. Beat what I've been buying in the UK by far, and it was a steal. So that's good to have that engine mount that I needed for peanuts from the other side of the world. Boring stuff. Track rods, inner track rods. I've already got the outer for the steering rack, which is only pulling apart. I've scored finally scored a set of Porsche calipers, which I actually need. I've made a mistake and I've bought the wrong calipers at the start. I bought 986 calipers, not 996. I then found a 996 caliper on Facebook. It was a bargain. It was mint. I couldn't find another one. And then yesterday, on my eBay searches that I'd saved, a pair come up for less than 300 quid. So I can sell that one that I've got. I can actually then get them sent away, powder coated, for all stainless brass, stainless nipples. I've got all the seals, as you can see, from Big Red, which is always a good company in the UK to use. And I can get them built, powder coated, and on the car. Then what else have we bought? So that's that done. That's the interior pretty much there. And I've also bought this beautiful piece. OMP, nice dish, 350mm steering wheel. Now, I was having a hurry about what one to buy. I was trying my best to find a replica or even an original, which was going to be a task that was never going to happen, of the BTCC cars. I got in contact with Momo, and they only made them for that car. So it was not going to happen. I tried to find one that looked similar, really weren't really finding what I wanted. So I went on the internet and Murray Motorsport had this one, and I just thought, you know, that's going to suit. It's got a nice dish, which is nice. I wanted Alcantara. That'll fit the bill. And luckily, OMP, Momo, they all bolt up to the same spine. And from years ago, I broke a Mark IV Golf, and I've still got the hub from it. So I haven't even got to buy a hub, so I can bolt it straight to that. Job done. So interior-wise, nearly there. Nearly there. But speaking of interior, if you are breaking an Audi A4 Avant B5, ideally in East Anglia, I need some parts. From the start, I thought about running this car a stripped out interior. The more and more that I'm thinking about it, the more I think it's probably not going to be worthwhile for how I'm going to end up using it. Yes, it's built for track, but I want to be able to drive it to a show that might be 3 hours away. I don't want to do that with whole interior rattling around. It's really cold and damp in there because it's metal on metal on metal. I want a bit of comfort, and I do love a club sport sort of feel to a car, you know, bucket seats, quarter work shifter, some boost gauges, harnesses, cage, but with a minimalistic interior. The whole interior in this car was blue, so it was never going to stay. I now need a full black interior. So I'm running door cards anyway, because the way the inner doors are set up on this car, you can't really do anything but run a door card. So I've run the door cards, just run a full dash because I want stereo, still want heating and fans. So realistically, I'm looking for the whole boot liner set, so carpet, side panels, boot panel, and a carpet, and the lower B pillars and the kick seals that go along. If you've got them in your local, that'd be brilliant. If I've got to travel a little bit, not a problem, just let us know. That way I can run a full interior per se and have a little bit of comfort. So we're going to run a Club Sport vibe inside, and I think the additional weight that I'm going to add to it, if I'm really bothered about it, I need to lose some. So sod what I'm putting into it, I'll just go on a diet. Maybe not. But for now, that's where we're at. We're cracking on with the engine. That's my first part and play. We can get once I've heard from Pro Race, because they had the sponsorship offer much like Turbo's Entry did. I'm waiting for a reply from them. If nothing comes through, I've already spoke to another engine builder that I'm getting a price on. I'll just buy the parts, send the head and the block to them, and get it built. They're local to us. They've helped me out before, so we can at least get that done. I can start bolting bits onto it. I start sticking it in the engine bay, working out some header tank and other bits and bobs. I can send the engine bay to paint, because it's not doing her any favours, just sitting there bare metal. So yeah, we get in there. But until then, that'll be the next video when we do something else. So hopefully I'm going to start working on getting this interior in now that I've got the loom. That'll probably be what the next episode will include. I'd love to do it today, but the car that gets me from backwards and forwards from work, she needs a little bit of something spent on her. So that's what I've got to do today rather than working on that. So thanks as always. Please like and subscribe, it always helps. Share it with your friends. Until then, take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.